So I've been using InvestEngine now for over 2 years, and this is my in-depth review of the platform, helping you decide as a beginner investor whether this platform is right for you. I'm going to go through everything from fees to every feature that applies to most of us UK-based investors, and throughout the video I'm going to give you the pros and cons of this platform. Now, before we start the review, I want to disclose the fact that even though I'm not sponsored by InvestEngine and all this is my own opinion, I am however an affiliate member, meaning that if you sign up using the link in the description down below, you will receive a bonus as well as I. But this doesn't mean that I can't voice my own opinions about the platform, and even before the affiliate links, I was actually using this platform. So in this channel, I really only recommend 2 investment brokers because I think as a beginner investor, you want to have a platform with the lowest amount of fees so that the fees don't creep up on you in the long term and eat away at your overall return. So primarily, the first important thing that we're going to be looking at are the fees from InvestEngine. Now, why I have been recommending InvestEngine for the longest time is that they don't have any platform fees and they don't have any fees for execution. So as you can see here, InvestEngine actually provides one of the lowest fees for investing in the UK, and it is worth noticing that InvestEngine only allow you to invest in exchange traded funds, so no individual stocks here. By doing this, they can ensure that we are paying the lowest fees as a UK investor. Now, if we look at their website, we can see that fees are their main focus in trying to keep them as low as possible. So here we can see that InvestEngine actually offers a free stocks and shares ISA, so there's no monthly or annual charge for having a stocks and shares ISA. They also have 0 general account fees, and what we'll see later on is that you can buy some of the Vanguard ETFs that Vanguard offers, however without the Vanguard platform fee, which overall makes it much cheaper to invest with InvestEngine. They also have a new SIP, which I'm not going to look at in this video, but their fees for the SIP are only 0.15%, and this is capped at £200 a year. So if you have very large amounts, this could be the ideal SIP for you. Also, not the focus of this review, but their business account also has 0 account fees. So with InvestEngine, you can create your DIY portfolio, and this is going to be the main focus of this video, as most of my audience are going to create their own portfolios. This is why they're watching personal finance videos. So with your create your own portfolio, you're not going to be paying any fees for the platform. All you're going to really be paying are the ETF costs, which are baked into the ETF, and a small market spread will apply to some of these ETFs. You can also have a managed portfolio, which costs an additional 0.25%, and InvestEngine manage all your money for you with that fee. So with their managed portfolio, there is a spread between what you buy the ETF at and what the market is actually selling them for. So for a managed portfolio, these spreads cost on average 0.7% per year. So you can invest with as little as £100, and these you can put into ETFs, and the lowest fee for these ETFs are 0.03%. So this is just a total expense ratio, and you're not going to see every ETF actually having that low of a fee. So how do the ISA fees compare to other big providers? So you can see here, InvestEngine has a free ISA. It also doesn't cost anything per trade, and the total costs disregarding the ETF costs and any spreads are 0. Now, compared to things like free trade, you can see that free trade has an ISA fee, which can really add up in the long run. Another thing to note about InvestEngine is that because most, if not all, of their ETFs are denominated in your local currency, which will be the pound, which means there are no foreign exchange fees, brokers such as Free Trade, Trading212, and most others will have a foreign exchange fee, and you're essentially bypassing this by investing in InvestEngine. And of course, InvestEngine is FSCS regulated, so that's the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. So in case of a crisis with InvestEngine, the FSCS will have your money and assets protected up to £85,000. So when you log into InvestEngine, this is the screen that you're immediately greeted with, and I'm going to go through all the features as a natural user and talk about the pros and cons of this platform. So the first thing that you see when you log in is your total balance, and currently you can see I have £57,391. Now this is a considerable amount of my total net worth, and this just goes to show how much I actually like InvestEngine as a platform in order to put so much of my money there. You can see that the interface is nice and clean. Currently I am on the light mode, but you can also get the dark mode. You can change this in your phone setting or even the settings within InvestEngine. So at a glance, you can see your total balance and your total return on the platform. So this is £367.30 for me. What I would like to see is this number even bigger, because this is what you're going to be looking at a glance when you open the platform. InvestEngine have made lots of tweaks on the app since I have actually started using it. But compared to other platforms such as Freetrade and Trading212, I personally think the app could be improved a lot more and make it a lot easier for beginners to get into it. I just think the app could be improved in terms of accessibility and a few features at a glance. However, in terms of simpleness, I think InvestEngine is one of the more simpler platforms to use. There is a slight learning curve when you actually start investing. However, you can really get over this, and it is easy to check your holdings at a glance. So unlike other platforms, there is no graph of your portfolio, so you can't see the changes within the last week, month, year, etc. I would really love to see this, even if they didn't include it on the main page. I would love some sort of feature where I can press into my balance and it will show me the change in my balance over the past few years or so. If you're coming from Vanguard, this will be the most similar platform because of course InvestEngine allows you to invest in Vanguard ETFs, but also ETFs from other massive players such as BlackRock and Invesco. Essentially, the front screen is divided into two bits. So you have your ISA and you have your general investment accounts. Now, what is different about InvestEngine is that they actually allow you to open many different cards of separate general investment accounts, I like to think. I have 5 different general investment accounts essentially, and I really love this. I personally have loads of savings accounts on my main bank, and it allows me to manage my money in the way that I want it to. Of course, you don't have to have 5 general investment accounts, and you can actually have just one and then mix and match what ETFs you want. But I personally love that feature, and I wish it was there in other platforms too. So you can also see you have 2 cash pots, one that fits within your ISA segment and then one for your general investment accounts. Because essentially each card is its own portfolio, you can also see that you have cash piles within these portfolios too. So that's something to note if you have lots of individual portfolios, is that you're going to have to manage the cash between the portfolios and between your entire general portfolio, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go into one of these cards and explain how investing works with InvestEngine. So as you can see, this portfolio has 2 holdings, one in the S&P 500 by Vanguard and another one in the FTSE Japan, also by Vanguard. When you create a portfolio, you can put in however many ETFs you want and put a weight percentage of how much money you want to go into each portfolio. So when I created this portfolio, for example, I had an 80-20 weighting of the S&P 500 and the FTSE Japan. However, at any time you can quickly go into these cards and override and buy how much you want. So I think it can get very confusing when you have many general investment accounts. For example, if this card here represents a portfolio, that's fine, I have a portfolio, and here you can clearly see the changes in that specific portfolio over time. You can even see when you've deposited, just like Vanguard. However, when you go into your individual holding, for example the S&P 500 by Vanguard, you can see that again you're given information about the growth of this particular ETF, and then you can buy and sell, which I think could be confusing for a beginner investor. But you always have to make a compromise between advanced features and making something too simple. I personally think that more features gives you more freedom, but I can see where it can get confusing using InvestEngine. You can see the dividends received within this ETF here, which is the Vanguard S&P 500. But if I go back, you can see the dividends received within this portfolio. And then if I go back, you can see within each other portfolio, you have separate amount of dividends, and you can then go into each ETF, see the growth of that ETF, and also see the dividends for that ETF. So there's so much control over how you want to manage your ETFs. I personally will not recommend for a beginner to have so many secondary portfolios, but I love it. It allows me to track my investments the way I want it to. For example, I can individually track, the GSPX here and see that I've got a 22% return on my money. So now that we know how essentially the platform works, I want to just show you how it is to create a new portfolio. So let's go and add a new portfolio and see how a new portfolio can be made. So here we can press add new portfolio. So there are 2 options. One is do it yourself and one is managed. So like I said, InvestEngine offers managed accounts with a 0.25% fee. However, do it yourself or DIY is completely free. And this is the one I expect most people watching this video to be wanting to do. So go into create DIY portfolio. You can see there are 2 options again. You can have your ISA or general investment account. Now, if you don't have an ISA with InvestEngine and you want to create an ISA, it's all up to you, but I've already maxed out my ISA for this year, so I can't do that. So I'm going to create a general account. Now, this is the meat and bones of InvestEngine, and this gives us a great look into the range of ETFs that InvestEngine offers. So InvestEngine offers more than 590 exchange traded funds, which is a huge catalog of funds. Like I said before, it is up to you to decide whether more options is better for you or not. Typically, it makes things easier by having less options, but I personally prefer to have have more options, and I'm sure a lot of people do too. What I really like about InvestEngine is the fact that it provides a lot of options and a lot of information about these exchange traded funds. So for example, you can type in the ETF you want. For example, the very common VUSA, you type it in and you find it. When you go into it, what you can do is add to your portfolio here. So we can just press add to portfolio. So if I've decided that I want to add the S&P 500 from Vanguard into my portfolio, I can see at a glance the total expense ratio. So this fund is going to cost me per year 0.07% as a total expense ratio, and currently the dividend yield is 1.22%. If I want to find out more information about a specific ETF, InvestEngine is very good for this. It tells you an overview of the ETFs, and more importantly, it tells you the holdings that each ETF has. For example, the biggest holdings in the S&P 500 by Vanguard is Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta. You can also see the regions that this ETF is exposed to, for example, North America, Europe excluding UK for example. You can also see the sectors, industrial, technology, financial, and so on and so forth. So it gives you a lot of information about the ETFs that you want to invest in at a glance, and also more deep if you want to get into that. As always, you can download the key investor information pack available for every ETF, and you can find out all about the fund from the details the actual fund provider provides. So if I wanted to add this, I can just press review and I can set the allocation of how much I want in my portfolio. If we don't know the particular ETF that we want to buy, we can actually sort them by many different criteria that is available from InvestEngine. For example, if we really wanted to keep the lowest fees, we can pick ETFs with the lowest total expense ratio. And if you do not understand certain words, there's also an I next to key terms. For example, if you click on TER, it says that this stands for total expense ratio, and it's essentially how much each ETF costs in terms of admin fees. So if we want to go from low to high, we can do that, and we can see that over 500 ETFs pop up and the lowest total expense ratios are given to us. Here we see the S&P 500 by SPDR. This fund has a total expense ratio of only 0.03, which is much cheaper than the Vanguard version, for example. You can also see the holdings, which will be very similar to the other fund because they're both S&P 500. We have Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, etc. We can see the regions and we can see the sectors. We can also sort by yield, so we can go from high to low, and the yield here basically just means the dividend yield. We can do high to low, and we can see that this ETF here, the HSBC MSCI Brazil, is offering a 9.28% yield. It does have a very high expense ratio, and I must tell you that this is not financial advice, and just because something has a high yield doesn't mean you should invest into it. You can see clearly here from the results of the portfolio that this fund has not been doing too well at all. You can also sort the ETFs by asset class. Here we can have equities, we can have bonds and alternatives. We can even filter by providers. We have some of the big providers here such as BlackRock, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, Invesco, JP Morgan, the list goes on. And I must say I'm very impressed by the sheer amount of providers that InvestEngine has managed to get on. You can also sort by dividend payouts, so you can have accumulating funds which automatically reinvest the dividends, or distributing, or any here. If you're really into ESG, you can also sort by funds that have an ESG element. And a favorite of mine, you can have ETFs that are currency hedged. For example, if you want to invest into the S&P 500 but you're worried about the fluctuations between the pound and the dollar, then you can get a hedged one which keeps that fluctuations down to a minimum. If you don't want to use the search or filter, you can actually discover ETFs here on a page that makes it very easy to discover ETFs. So you can see their featured partners here, WisdomTree, Xtrackers, and JP Morgan. They even have collections here, so these have different themes. We have leading global indices, ESG, money market funds, thematic themed ETFs, dividend-focused funds, multi-factor, small cap, emerging markets. Now, speaking of money market funds, I want to actually talk about this because InvestEngine allows you to invest into money market funds with money market ETFs. So currently they only have 2 money market funds. You can see we have the Xtrackers Great British Pound Overnight Rate Swap and the Lixor Smart Cash. So for example, the Xtrackers Great British Pound Overnight Rate Swap, which is essentially the rate that banks use between each other. So if you had some spare cash and wasn't planning to invest it in the short term, you can keep them in money market funds. Money market funds are very secure short-term places of high liquidity where you can put your cash in and you're going to earn a rate higher than just leaving your money dormant in a general investment account. You can also find ETFs based on industries and sectors, for example, commodities, financial, tech, energy, industrial, consumer, healthcare, and property. If we go into property, for example, you can see a few funds here. So we have the iShares UK Property. So essentially these are REITs, so real estate investment trusts. And you can also clearly see at a glance the yields that these funds pay. UK. And of course, if you wanted to know more, you can find out from the key investor information packs. So yes, InvestEngine provides a huge amount of ETFs and provides a very low fee for investors within the UK. Up till now, it sounds like a very, very rosy review. However, there are some things that I'm going to be really critical on InvestEngine about. So coming from platforms such as Freetrade and Trading 212, one thing that I've noticed about InvestEngine that really does kind of bother me a lot is the fact that executions take a long time. For example, if I went into this portfolio and clicked on GSPX and then I pressed invest, it would take me a few business days for that execution to actually go in. And every time I buy an ETF at a specific price, when it comes to execution, I never get that price. It's always higher or lower than that price. And that really does bother me and it has stopped me from investing more into InvestEngine for the longest time. I know why InvestEngine does this. What they do is queue orders from multiple people at certain points of the day and week in order to get the cheapest rates for executions. However, in the modern world, we expect things to happen quick. Similarly, when you want to sell an ETF, it does take a few business days again. Let's say we were 5% in the green and we wanted to sell our funds. When it comes down to selling, you could often be 1% in the red, and that really does suck, especially when you have lots of money in your platform. I would really love InvestEngine to have some sort of limit or buy orders where we can sell our funds at a specific market order. I'd rather wait and make sure that my money is sold in the profit rather than in the red, because there's no control after when you press sell to what price you're going to get, and this really does bother me, and that's the one thing that really has stopped me from depositing more into my InvestEngine account. Now of course, given the fact that executions aren't rapid, it really makes you invest for the long term, which I recommend much more than actually trying to time the market. So I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing, but it's my biggest critique of InvestEngine. So regarding the delayed executions, I spoke to InvestEngine and they said that they do trade every day at 2 p.m. However, there is a bit more to that, and if you look at their frequently asked questions, you can see that InvestEngine does do your orders in a very specific fashion. So what they do is that they aggregate all your orders into one single grouped trade. So this is one buy and one sell trade per ETF per day. This, like I said, helps to keep the costs down. I will leave a link under the InvestEngine link so that you can find out more about how these trades are made. Now, lastly, I want to go through the ISA and show you how that works. So essentially, if you've already seen the general accounts, the ISA is almost exactly the same. You have a cash pot here, and then you have your self-managed portfolios. I only have one here, as you can see. If I go into it, you can see the movement on my portfolio. I've only had my ISA for a few weeks now, so there isn't much data there. But I transferred from Freetrade to InvestEngine, and the whole process was extremely simple. InvestEngine do offer an in-specie transfer, so if you have a provider such as Trading 212 or Freetrade and you have funds in ETFs, more than likely InvestEngine will actually offer the same ETFs, meaning that you don't have to sell out of your ETFs in order to transfer your ISA from your old provider to InvestEngine. There isn't much else to say about the ISA compared to the general investment accounts, as it's pretty much the same. The only thing with the ISA is that you are investing within your taxed wrapped individual savings accounts. Now, another feature of InvestEngine that I really like are their analytics. I wish it was on the main screen, as it is a very useful function. Anyway, if we click the 4 squares here, we can go into analytics here. We can see what we're invested in completely. For example, I have a heavy dominance towards North America because it's mostly S&P 500. You can see out of my 57,000, 93.4% is in North America, 2% in UK, 1.6% in Europe and Japan, and so forth. You can also see in my absolute total portfolios added up, I have 9 sectors which I have exposure to, and of course I have 100% in equities, no percent in bonds, 27% industrial, and it also tells you the pound amount here, 15,930, 23.8% in technology, financial, etc, etc. You can find out this on your own portfolios. It tells you also the holdings that I have, so around 1,400 companies, and of course 3,910 pounds in Microsoft if I were to pick individual stocks myself, essentially because of these are ETFs. I have 6.6% in Apple, so of course I am very heavily invested within the Magnificent 7 here, as you can see. You can also see your asset classes, like I said, 100% equities, no bonds, pretty much no cash. I only have £1 in remaining cash and no alternatives at the moment. So hidden within this menu, you can also see all your transactions. And what I really like and will help me in my self-assessment is that you can actually sort by income and dividends. And I wish more providers would do it like this, because you can actually put in your tax years here. So current tax year or previous tax year. I can go to my current tax year and it will tell me this is how much I made in income and dividends. So of course, well below the amount I'm going to need to pay any dividend income on. But it's really nice to know. And when I'm doing my self-assessment, very easy to add up these totals. I wish more providers would do this. You can also see the reports. So for example, all the PDFs that would get usually emailed to you, you can actually get them here too. You can also create your own reports here by actually going down different drop-down menus. So all in all, InvestEngine is a great platform if you want low fees and only want to invest in ETFs. The downsides are there are no individual stocks and it is very hard to know what you're going to be buying at and selling at, especially in a volatile market. Would I recommend InvestEngine? I definitely would. As you can see by how much money I have in it, I definitely am using InvestEngine. I love the fact that it's got low fees and I love the fact that it deters me from actually trying to time the market and keeping a hold on my holdings regardless of what is happening in the market. So make sure to check out some of my other videos and I'll see you in the next video.